Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today again I'm here in the heart of Scotland, and behind me is a historic castle. It's the Balvenie Castle. You can actually visit it in summer, and yeah, it's very historic. It was built in the 12th century, so 1100s, and it was a very impressive building with big halls and big towers, and yeah, a nice garden in front of it on a hill. So it was really very good defendable. So it was not just a place for soldiers to stay, but also the lords to have banquets and festivals and really a lot of things. It changed hands quite a lot during the time. One time Mary, Queen of Scots, stayed here. At one point the English actually captured this castle, and Robert the Bruce attacked them and partly destroyed the castle, and later then it was abandoned at some point in 1700s, and they then decided, a local lord decided to take off the stone a little bit and build a new Balvenie castle that is actually standing on the distillery grounds. And let's head back down there and find out what about the distillery. I've told you about the new Balvenie castle that was built in the 1700s when William Grant, the owner of the distillery, of the Grant family, bought this estate, the Balvenie estate. He actually bought the castle with him, and the castle was repurposed as malting floors, and they built the distillery there. They didn't want to hire an architect because the architect cost as much as he paid for building Distillery of Glenfiddich. So he knew a lot, so he drew it themselves, but he now got contractors to build the distillery, so he didn't like build it stone by stone but with him and his sons anymore like he did with Glenfiddich. So it was actually a bit of a thing to build a second distillery. He bought the ground actually to secure the water source, which is a thing, and he said then, okay, let's build a distillery. But he thought at the beginning that he wanted to sell the distillery. He just built the distillery and then sell it. But he changed his mind, and he was really bought in with the contracts of Glenfiddich. He had to sell everything to a blender. So it gave him also a bit of a vision of making his own stuff, which became true with the Patterson crash. And so the distillery was built in 1892, and he actually planned it as Glenfiddich 2. And everybody was like, okay, this is the Balvenie Castle, the new Balvenie Castle, the old Balvenie Castle, the Balvenie Estate. It should be obvious what the name of that distillery is. So he opened it up as Glengordon. And everybody was really bummed about it. So everybody was like, what are you doing? And so he renamed it in the next year, 4 months later, in year 1893, he renamed it to Balvenie Distillery, which is the proper name for the distillery. So, but it doesn't end here. He was a proper Scotsman. He kind of took his competitors out by outbidding them, but he still did a bit of penny pinching. So what he did was he repurposed the new Balvenie Castle as malting floors, and he also bought used stills. The wash stills actually came from Lagavulin, and the spirit still came from the Glenalbin distillery. So he started with 2 stills, a lot more now. So that is proper Scotsman. Later, 30 years later, they actually took down some of the new Balvenie Castle and built a new malting floor out of that because it was just too high. He took 1.5 stories off. So the new Balvenie Castle is now a warehouse, but it's a bit lower than it used to be. Another very influential thing was in 1962. There was a young man called David Stewart who hired at the company, and I think he hired as a normal man in the distillery, but he was really into whiskey, and he was an intelligent man, so he worked himself up over the next years or decade or so and became the malt master, which is kind of the term here for master blender. So malt master blender is kind of the thing. So he created a lot of whiskeys, actually did a lot of innovative stuff I'm going to tell you later. And he stayed with the company until he's 80. I mean, he's still alive and he's still working with the company, releasing whiskeys, thinking about creating new whiskeys. He gave him his job up as the malt master, but he is now an honorary ambassador, and I think also, yeah, very much involved with the whiskey creation team. So he's still working, and I think he's one of these people who just want to do stuff. And yeah, that was really a very, very influential figure for the distillery of Balvenie. So yeah, let's get in and find out how that stuff is made. The most important things for whiskey are good water and good barley. So let's talk about the water first. Originally, the estate here around Balvenie was just bought because William wanted to secure the water for the distillery. So he built his own distillery. There was another one coming in. He wanted to buy the buildings here and build a distillery, and he actually outbid him for the distillery. So the distillery was really built to secure the Robidoux water source, but they actually did find another 16 water sources up the hill. So the distillery of Balvenie doesn't have to take it from the Robidoux anymore, but they have their own water source, which is really good water. There's good water coming down from this hill. So yeah, that is the story of the water. Let's talk about the barley. The distillery has its own malting floors, but it can produce a maximum up to 500 tons of barley each year. So this is not enough for the distillery to have its own barley. So they do have to get in barley from other places, from big maltings as well. But they can produce about 5 to 10% of their own barley, and all the barley that is peated is actually produced here on site. Also, there are some bottlings that 100% own malted barley from Balvenie. The nice thing is the estate that William leased out to the Wiseman family, they actually did family on, and they're now 5th generation. They're still farmers and they still work together with the Grant family and the distilleries, so that is really nice. And they supply most of the malt, about 4/5 of the malt for their own maltings comes from that family. So they have really a good relationship with them, a lot of tradition, a lot of quality, because it's just short distance to tell them, hey, this is good, this is bad, and keep a good quality control. So yeah, this is the ingredients of Balvenie, and let's find out how we produce the whiskey. The distillery uses about 11 to 1 commercial malt to their home malt. So the commercial malt comes from the big maltings, and the home malt is the one that they malt on their own malting floors. So about 12 tons then are used in the mash tun, and they produce about 53,000 liters of wort, and the process is done with 3 waters, and this dilutes all the sugars and the starches and splits up the starches into sugars, so it comes out as a really, really, really sugary substance. And if you smell the air, you realize this is not peat week. We are in a normal week where we don't have any smoke in the air at all. So yeah, it's the normal Balvenie production as it is. Balvenie has 15 wash bags with a capacity, or they fill it with 52,000 liters and 260 liters of liquid yeast. So when you go through and you count the whole the wash bags, you will actually come to the number of 25. So why is that? That is because they also do the fermentation for Kinninvie. But there are already rumors, and Kinninvie becomes more independent, expanded, gets a single malt. There are tons of rumors about Kinninvie. I think they have been around for a long time, but yeah, there are rumors. So hopefully Kinninvie gets more of their own production, so Balvenie can then expand their production. So yeah, so how is the fermentation taking place? It is for 65 hours, which is quite a long time. After 48 hours, you don't have any alcoholic fermentation anymore. It stops at 10%, which is quite high. That's because Balvenie has really a very high sugar content, so that's what they are looking for. And with these 65 hours and their yeast, they are coming out as a very sweet and malty character. That's what the Balvenie character are looking for. With 65 hours, you can't really not get any fruity characters. There will be a few fruity characters in there, fresh fruits in there, but what they're really looking for is, really malty, sweet character. And with 10% of alcohol, that is perfect for the next step. So the aim of the spirit is to be a little bit sweet, malty character with some spiciness. So this is what now the distillery team has to produce. So they get supplied with a very malty, sweet wash, and they go into the wash stills. Unfortunately, you can't visit the wash stills, but maybe get some pictures or some video clips supplied by the distillery so I can show you. And they have 5 wash stills, fill them with about 12,000 liters, and the wash stage is pretty quick. But what is very interesting is the handling of the stills, the steam valves and the cuts and the measurements, they can be all done by hand. They do have measurements on their computer as well, but they do re-measurements when they do the cuts, just to check if they're at the right spot, and then do the cuts manually with the levers on the spirit safe. Let's talk about the spirit still side. They have 6 spirit stills, all with reflux bowls to have a lot of copper contact to get a nice round character. Yet still they do their cuts a little bit lower. They have upper is 74 and lower is 64. So what they do have, they have a little bit more spicy character in there. So this is what they're aiming for. Sweetness, maltiness, and a little bit of more spiciness to give the whole spirit a bit more volume, a bit more character, a bit more oomph to it. So after that, the spirit is distilled, and then we are heading off to the warehouse. The warehousing at Balvenie is closely tied to their sister distillery, Glenfiddich. And they share warehouses, so I think 40, 45, 47, somewhere around there, warehouses are shared between the distilleries. And Kinninvie doesn't get any warehouses. They have to be all shipped off to the big Girvan distillery. But the warehouses are really nice, and some of the warehouses are really more for Balvenie, like this warehouse. This warehouse is actually a really historic warehouse. It used to be the malting floors, and before that it used to be the new Balvenie castle. The ruins that we saw in the intro, they got taken stones from that castle and built the new Balvenie castle. It was never used by an army or by a lord or something like that. It was just built for the mistress of, I think, the Lord of Abalawa or somewhere around there. And that mistress was promiscuous, so she had many lovers. Even though the Duke died, she still lived here. And when she died, the spirit of her went into the walls, and it's haunted. Just a little joke. But the building looked like a bit of a manor, or a big villa or something like that. But it was built as a castle. The Lord had to build it as a castle, not just build a house for my mistress. So he built it as a castle. So the walls were 3 feet thick. That is about 120 or something like that. So they're really, really thick. Even the internal walls were really, really thick. You can see them somewhere around here. They got knocked down because they wanted to use that as the malting floors and now as the warehouse. And also William Grant needed stone for building of the distillery. So he knocked down the building by 1.5 floors and put them to use by building the new malting floors. And so I think that were warehouses back then, I'm not quite sure. So he built the distillery partly by the by knocking down the new Balvenie castle. So even the new Balvenie castle had to be repurposed at some point. Enough about more history. So let's talk about Balvenie. Balvenie was the first distillery to introduce cask finishing. Back in the days, it was just, most of it was blends, and if you'd have single malts, then they would use sherry casks and bourbon casks and mix them together and marry them together. But David Stewart was the first one to say, okay, we're taking it, we're recasking it into something more interesting and have a cask finish. He was also then the first one to introduce rum cask finish, like the Balvenie 14 is now. So that was quite a step and quite nice to for the whiskey industry, as cask finishing is now a really, really important part, and nearly all distilleries do that. So this is how the whiskey at Balvenie is matured, and let's have some of that whiskey now. So this was it with the production, and now we're having a little tasting and a little interview with Charlie Metcalf. And you've been here now with the distillery for 11 years, and you've started at the bar, went into distillery ambassador, so you got to know the distillery a lot, and now you're global brand ambassador. So thank you very much for having us here.
Absolute pleasure. Yeah, we were just chatting a minute ago, and I was trying to think back in my head how long I've been working with the Balvenie now. It's been such an incredible journey. But 11 years here at the distillery, yes.
I love it when you have a great family business, and the story of let's say, David, he worked here when he was 17, and he kind of still works here with 80.
I was actually just traveling with him.
Okay.
And he's actually 78. He's 78 at the moment.
Okay, he's not 80 yet.
Yeah, he's not quite 80 yet. But he's 78, and he's still just incredible. Still chatting about Balvenie all over the world. We were actually in Korea together, and I think he was at breakfast earlier than me every morning.
So we kind of have the core range of Balvenie here. So what are we having today?
So we're going to taste through 4 very interesting expressions of Balvenie, 3 of which are in our kind of core selection here. So starting off with an absolute classic in Balvenie Doublewood, which we'll have a talk about. A little bit of Caribbean cask is our second whiskey, so Caribbean cask 14-year-old. Then on to Portwood, which is obviously one that's very well established and that we've been bottling for some time. And then we're going to delve into a whiskey from our Stories range in the Week of Peat 14-year-old, so the only peated Balvenie that we have.
Yeah, I really like it. I think I have never tried the Week of Peat yet.
Okay, well,
I'm really excited about that one, because that one, just a small hint, I think it was the first whiskey that I recognized when I was just young, that was not just, this is not just alcohol.
Yes.
Because if you're young and whiskey is just more or less saying, alcohol.
I know. I mean, I remember those days too, right? I remember smelling whiskey and being like, smells like whiskey, But I think Doublewood was probably one of the first whiskies that I remember tasting as well, along with, you might remember the 10-year-old Founder's Reserve that we had as well. Yeah. So those were kind of some of the 2 first whiskies I remember trying, maybe alongside Abelard 10-year-old and Macallan 12-year-old, I think.
Yeah, these are also beginners whiskey, and I do also recommend that a lot to beginners, because it represents the brand Scotch whiskey or Scotch single malt really, really well, and it's just, I can remember it as really, really pleasant to just enjoy. And if you have a beginner who might be a bit shocked with the amount of ABV that you have in there, that is really, I think, a good entry.
I think it's a very approachable entry. Balvenie, in its makeup, is a very sweet style Scotch whiskey, and I think that sweeter style is a very kind of approachable thing for people to start off with. But I mean, I've been lucky enough to now taste probably thousands and thousands and thousands of whiskies, but this is one that I still return to and still enjoy. I find myself, when we're at tastings or events, I've got all these wonderful whiskies in front of me, and I still continue to reach for a dram of Doublewood 12-year-old.
You don't say about here you go.
Thank you.
You don't say anything about Speyside or Highland. You consider yourself Speyside or Highland?
Definitely Speyside.
Definitely Speyside. Okay.
Definitely a Speyside style whiskey, for sure. I mean, like, I think these flavors are very indicative of our Speyside style. That sweet kind of malty note that you pick up on a number of Speyside style whiskies. So yeah, I'd say we're quintessentially Speyside. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's have a little look at Doublewood. So a little bit of a chat on how we actually make Doublewood. So Doublewood is a cask finish, and as you probably know, we are actually famed with creating cask finishing. So David Stewart, our Balvenie malt master, had the idea of creating cask finishing in the early 80s. So in 1983, he had this brainwave of what would happen to the whiskey if I had it in American oak cask, took it out and put it into a sherry cask just for a short finishing period, just to add that extra layer to the whiskey, you know, not kind of a big bold layer of sherry, but just a light finishing layer on top. And cask finishing was born.
Yeah. It's crazy that you don't have that, like, it was just born like a couple of decades ago.
Yeah. Yes,
and now it's like the industry standard.
I know.
Yeah. Everybody does it, and it's so nice because you can do so much innovation in such a short period of time.
I think for us it's a good way of kind of adding. The way I see finishing is adding a subtle layer of complexity, but not shrouding the original distillery character that we always want to see in Balvenie. And this is something people are doing, you know, not just in Scotch whisky, but in German whisky, you know, in world whisky, everyone is now cask finishing.
I find this a lot different than I had it the last time, and I think a lot to do with the smells you pick up around the distillery. It's always the same. It tastes different at the distillery.
I know. It's like that thing where I think everyone's had this with like any kind of alcohol really. You buy a bottle of wine at a vineyard, you buy a bottle of distillery and you take it home and you're like, is this how I remember it?
But it's so cool that you have something in the glass and you just remember what you smelled like, I don't know, half an hour or an hour ago at some point in the distillery. You're like, yeah, that.
I mean, the maltiness that you hopefully smell as you're going through the mashing and fermentation area, definitely present. You know,
I really love the maltiness that you have. You really got that spot on.
So, just in terms of how we actually make Doublewood, just to cover this off. So Doublewood's matured for 12 years in American oak, then taking the whiskey out, normally a finish time in first fill Oloroso sherry cask, always use first fills for this, and it's normally around 9-10 months for the finish time in those casks.
So you could write on nearly 30?
It's getting close to it, it's getting close to it. We do actually then ton the whiskies. So I don't know if you spotted some of our tons in the warehouses when you had a look around, but we usually then put all that whiskey into wooden marrying tons for a period as well, and really let that bond together and bind in wood before it's bottled. Yeah.
What I do love is that sherry that also gives it a bit of a orange touch to it. I always have that with the Balvenie Doublewood. It's just, I don't know if that's my thing or if that is really in there, but I always have that.
I think like kind of you know when you cut like a fresh orange slice to put on top of an old fashioned, like that kind of orange like zestiness. There's a little bit of that in this.
For me, it's you have the zestiness, you also have a bit of a juiciness.
Yeah,
it's both in there. It's nice. That is the epiphany of orange. Like you have both of it.
And for me, that classic honeyed note that we want to see in Balvenie is always present in this.
Still, it's a bit stronger than you have with the Glenfiddich. It is the Glenfiddich is even milder in the entry. This one it has nice round mildness, but it has also a few more nuances to it, I would say.
Yeah, a little bit more. I mean, Glenfiddich is the 12-year-old, very, very fresh, very kind of vibrant, lighter style 12-year-old. This because of the sherry, the prominent sherry influence. I think that a little bit more spice, a little bit more kind of hefty, juicy element to it. Well,
yeah, it's strange. You're going for the spirit is going really for maltiness, while Glenfiddich is going for fruitiness. But you get a bit of fruitiness through the Oloroso. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is it that kind of time?
Yeah.
Slange it back. Cheers. And I think with Doublewood as well, I mean, we talk about having like a juicy nose, always a very juicy mouthfeel, you know, very full, very long lasting on the finish as well. Light spices, mid palate, but a great whiskey to start the day with.
Yeah, it's so round. That is why I usually prefer to give beginners a Balvenie 12 or recommend the Balvenie 12 because it has that roundness, it has a good amount of sweetness, it has that maltiness, although the maltiness is, I would say, underrepresented in Scotch right now. Still good amount of sherry in there, so it's really, it's a nice, I would say even archetype for a Speysider. Yeah. This is how a Speysider tastes.
I mean, it is a classic Speyside. I mean, this is a whiskey that we've been bottling since 1993. You know, so it's not changed in all that time. So people love it, and we think that we're doing very well with it. One that people still reach for. And I don't think we're taking it away anytime soon. Yeah,
that would be a huge mistake.
Yes, it's not happening, don't worry.
So talking about maltiness, you get your malt from a 5-generation farmer, I've heard, from the Wisemans. So how is that connection and how is that affecting distillery?
Yeah, it's a very, first of all, it's just an amazing connection, right? Like, you've been strolling around the distillery grounds today, and we're literally surrounded by the Balvenie farm. That's the name of the farm, and it's actually farmed by the Wiseman family. So this is a family that have been farming it for generations, and you know, the fact that they can do that, and we have this great trust in that relationship is very special. And we're not getting all of the malt for the distillery from this farm, you know, nowhere near.
It's just too small.
it's just a small portion. But the fact that we can do this kind of very special grain to glass whiskey, you know, we're growing the barley here, we're taking it all in, we're malting it, and running that all the way through the process, kind of grain to glass, and creating very limited Balvenies with this. Very few people in the industry can do that.
Oh yeah.
I can think of 2-3 other bottlings. You know, a Springbank local barley. There's a Brook Laddie as well, local barley. I mean, you're talking a handful, right?
Yeah, it's really tough to do that. If you still have malting flaws, you have a chance if you can establish the relationship. But otherwise than that, that's not possible.
Yeah. And if we didn't have the maltings, then you know, we couldn't malt this barley that's been grown on our doorstep. So we're very lucky to have that extra piece of the puzzle as well. Again, something is almost lost, you know, in our Scotch whisky industry. Less than 10 distilleries still have floor malting operating.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. It's just that the big drums are just so much more efficient. it's just the thing.
Yeah, they're a lot more efficient.
You couldn't have an output of, let's say, Glenfiddich with any floor molding. You'd had to have like skyscrapers of floors.
Yeah, it would be very, very difficult. It would be very difficult. But you know,
but it's nice to have it.
Yeah,
because you can feel it.
Yeah, it's nice to have it. We feel it adds to the quality of the whiskies that we're putting out. And it allows us to do really cool things, like the 100% home farm, and a whiskey that we'll talk about a bit later on.
Oh, nice.
As well.
Okay, so the next one is also kind of like the first one was like your testament of first cask finish, and the next one is something also a bit like your first one. Isn't that did you rum cast from you first?
We actually so this one, a lot of people think that this is our first ever rum cask iteration of Balvenie. But before this one came out, we actually had 5 before it.
Ah, okay.
So we had a number. So we've had a few 14-year-olds. We had a Rumwood 14, Golden Cask 14, some 17-year-old rum casks as well.
Oh yeah, I think remember that one.
Yeah, you might have. They were kind of around mid 2000s, so about 2007 they were coming out. So a lot of people are sort of fooled into thinking this is the first, but we have kind of dabbled with, David has dabbled with rum casks before.
You still have to try something before you find that really sweet spot.
Yeah, and I think that was us going through that process, quite honestly. Like we were bringing in casks from the source countries, so from over in the West Indies. We brought in some casks from some, let's just say, famous rum distilleries, and by the time they got to Scotland, they were quite dry.
Oh, okay.
So the rum impact was not always that consistent.
Okay.
So we actually David decided to move away from that method, and with Caribbean Cask, we were actually bringing rum here to Dufftown. We were blending it here to create a profile of a rum that we wanted. That rum was going into the casks here at Dufftown, seasoning the cask with the flavour of this rum. The rum then comes out, and in goes the 14-year-old American oak-aged Balvenie for the finish.
Okay, yeah, the thing is the West Indies are quite far away, even though we have better things than sail ships now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But it's still far away.
It takes a long time to get here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so this is us kind of now controlling our destiny a little bit with the rum cask, with Caribbean Cask.
But rum casks, okay, you're doing your own rum cask. I was about to say rum casks are probably easier to source, but as they are farther away, then it's a bit more difficult.
They are easier to get. We just kind of wanted to go for ultimate control, ultimate flavor control, really, and create this rum cask ourselves. We were very lucky to have some amazing connections in the rum world, and we worked with a supplier that was able to bring us bulk rum. That David actually met this gentleman at an IWSC dinner.
Okay.
And they forged a great relationship. A chap called John Barrett.
Okay.
And he was able to get us this rum, and through this relationship, we managed to create, the start of Caribbean Cask. And it's become an incredibly popular Balvenie for us. I think if you prefer an even sweeter whiskey than Doublewood, if you have quite a sweet tooth, this is definitely going to be a whiskey that works for you.
Are you going to do anything with the rum, or is it off the Girvan?
No, the rum, we are working on a product with the rum. We don't currently bottle it.
Okay.
We don't currently bottle it. It is, we used to actually sell it back to John.
Okay.
And he actually blended with it, because obviously the rum is maturing here and it's picking up age. And he then blends with it, and it's gone forevermore. We don't know what it goes into. Okay. But we are working on a product at the moment that you might see in Germany at some point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm excited.
Stay tuned. So
okay, let's have some. We're talking a bit too much. Too less whiskey.
Okay, Caribbean Cask.
Oh boy, yeah. I know what you mean with the sweet tooth.
Straight away, you notice the difference from Doublewood, right? So for me, this is going down the line of like kind of burnt sugar, demerara on the nose.
It adds a lot to the honey. You have that base where you have the honey, but then you have burnt sugar, caramel. Yeah, a bit of that. You know what? Your grandma had that little vial with the rum aroma. That one.
I think if you know, like this is more like kind of fresh honey and doublewood. This is that kind of heavier, like Manuka honey, like really more intensely sweet honey. And the fruit is a bit more prominent here, like kind of light fruits, a little bit of kind of apple skin for me.
You do have light fruits, but I always have a bit of raisin in there. I don't know why. It's just rum for me.
Let's have a retry this one. A little bit stronger. So double was bottled at 40. This is at 43. So it's a little tickle stronger ABV. I mean, again, juicy mouth coating, a little bit more ABV prickle with the 43, but still very, very delicate on the palate.
Very delicate, I would say. I wouldn't have recognized it as 43.
Yeah.
And it's, again, you have the texture, you have the roundness, you have the honey, but it's different. Where this one was a bit more with the oranges and a bit darker, this one is a bit, in the taste, it's fresher. I would even say a bit going into that, you know, creamy mango. And I don't know.
I love this one. Like, for me, when we obviously do a lot of whiskey and food now, so I think for me, like, this is a perfect combo for like sweet and sweet. So this with your dessert, even with like some cheeses, it's absolutely delicious with like a bit more of a heavy cheese. Really, really nice.
But I'm gonna say the same thing I said about the, what was that, Glenfiddich 21. You could easily have that instead of dessert.
Definitely could.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you in Scotland that sometimes happens.
Yes.
Quite regularly.
It doesn't have so much preparation time as well.
Yeah.
But I like it. So what is a bit of a problem with Balvenie is that availability. so I've checked the numbers. We haven't been here for quite a long time, and we still had the number of, I think, 5 or 5.5 million liters or something like that.
You've not been here in a while then.
Yeah. And so you upped your capacity to 7.5 million.
We're about 7. We're about 7.
Yeah.
So 7's where.
Is that gonna mean we're gonna see a bit of relaxation in the future?
So hopefully as the years go on, we did expand the distillery back in about 2012. So we do have some of that whiskey now coming up to an age that we're ready to see it go into a bottle. So hopefully you're going to start seeing a bit more Balvenie coming through in the next few years. We've kind of just exploded, right? And as to an extent, as has the Scotch whisky industry. You know,
oh yes.
Other people, all our friends are also so popular. But Balvenie, we're lucky enough that people are loving what we're doing, but we just don't have enough whiskey to keep.
Yeah, I think that
happy.
the stock situation with Balvenie is particularly hard.
It's tricky.
I'm still okay. The increase in production is a really good news, but I'm really a bit worried because you have good connections to the east. There are a lot of people in the east, and if they get more money and more into Balvenie even more, then I see a bit of a stock shortage even in the future.
I think we're definitely kind of spreading our stock across our popular markets as much as we can, sure. And obviously keeping it fair. You know, our friends over in the east definitely are loving Balvenie, but Germany has loved Balvenie for a very long time, and it's a very established market for us. So we definitely want to keep giving you guys as much whiskey as we possibly can, and hopefully that will get better going forward, so you can keep your customers happy. You know?
Yeah, and there are always rumors of, you know, Kinnerly, after 28 years, they finally move out, so you can even up production a little more, or other rumors. There are so many rumors out there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's something that the family are considering. You know, the family are very, as you've seen in our history, always looking forward. You know, you chatted to Struan about the expansion of Glenfiddich, I'm sure. And yeah, I mean, we're looking to see what the next chapter is for Balvenie, whether we up the distillery and how we do that, whether our friends at Kinninvie vacate and create their own little Kinninvie setup all down there. It's an option.
How long is it? When was the Glenfiddich finished?
So it was finished, I think it finished just at the tail end of 2020, the full
2020,
expansion.
so you probably have now a bit of resources at hand that you can do it. I would probably not recommend to like all do the same time.
Yeah, it's just not possible. Yeah, I think now the Glenfiddich's kind of signed, sealed, and delivered, and all beautifully finished off. I'm sure you've seen it. It looks incredible.
It's nice. I really love that it's not as loud as other still houses. I don't know what you do with the piping, but it's nice.
Yeah,
and it looks Scottish.
Yeah, I mean, the building itself, the pointing of the stonework and everything is utterly beautiful. It's been done really, really well. But yeah, to finish off the piece on Balvenie, now that we have some resource available, the team here at Dufton are taking a breather after Glenfiddich. But maybe we'll look to do something with Balvenie. But obviously, the distillery itself is such an old structure that it comes with its challenges. If we wanted to move things around, so we'll see how that goes, and see if the family would like to do it.
Maybe you build a bigger still house around the old still house and knock down the still house inside.
I don't want to knock down the still house. I love the still house. But yeah,
didn't they do that with the last still house? They built a still house around the still house and knocked it down or something like that.
It was actually mostly the old mash house. So
mash house,
the still house is pretty much the same as since day dot. The mash house and fermentation, that was the one that we built on top because it was just easier to do so.
That sounds crazy.
It's good Scottish ideas,
But Scotland has really good engineers. I mean, if you think about it, so many engineers come from Scotland. Okay, so the next one is one that is really out of stock.
Yes. So Balvenie Portwood. So Portwood, like Doublewood, is one that is incredibly well established for us. We started bottling Portwood in 1995. So just after we started Doublewood, and this is us kind of starting to bottle some slightly older whiskies. This is still in our core range, but I would say this is just beautiful, decadent, delicate, old whiskey that is packed with intricate flavours.
Yeah, I think you got some recommendations over the last years from us as well, because it's such a beautiful whiskey. And if you see a Portwood, yes, it's very much out of stock. If you see it, if you can afford it, I would recommend you to buy it.
It's an utterly stunning example of an older Balvenie. For me, this is where Balvenie kind of starts to change a little bit and starts to display some flavors that we don't see in the younger expressions. So this is where I like to use the word like tropicality. Tropical fruits start to come in a little bit.
And also you feel the age.
Yeah.
We've done a bit of a study with our customers. Our customers really prefer the 18 to 21 year olds. Okay. This is like the sweet spot. Yeah. And this is a good sweet spot. Yeah. Combined with a nice, I don't know, fruitiness to it.
The fruitiness, I think it's fruit in layers as well. You've got the kind of tropical fruits from the American oak. Then you've got like the red fruits that are coming in from the port. So to me, it's kind of like strawberry, raspberry, like red berries on the top. And then I get this kind of marzipan-y thing going on as well.
I do get the berries quite a lot now.
And in terms of the makeup for this, so it's the whiskey spending 21 years in American oak, and then it's coming out for normally around a 6-month finish in tawny port pipes. So we're using tawny port pipes for this. You might not be able to see it on the camera, but it's got a beautiful kind of red sheen coming through on the whiskey, beautiful red colour.
But is it the cask finish or what is that?
It is a finish.
Finish.
Yeah,
okay.
it is. Yeah, so 21 years in American oak, 6-month finish in the tawny port pipes. Yeah, so not a full term maturation in port. Yeah, it'd be very, very red if it was a full term.
Oh, I do like it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. And I'm in. I'm doing the classic old whiskey thing where you taste it and there's so much flavour going on you almost want to eat it.
Yeah,
Like
chew it. I know it.
It's got that like chewy, hefty.
But the volume, the intensity increased quite a lot. These were like pleasantly beginner friendly. This one has a lot of volume. You could give it like as a second or third to a beginner as well to just give it a show. This is round. But look at the intensity. Look at the fruits and everything in there.
Yeah, I think if we've got, this is one for like our customers all over the world love this because it's like their old friend. Literally, it's an older whiskey that when they go to it, they're going to just be able to relax and enjoy these intricate flavors of older Balvenie. Yeah. And if you ask David, we mentioned David a few times already, and we can have a chat about David in a moment here. But if you ask him what his favourite whiskey is, it's still Balvenie Portwood 21.
My father is also his favourite whiskey.
Yes,
but he's really a Portwood fan.
Yeah, I knew he was partial to the Portwood. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I also like when I smell in your whiskies now, I've never had your new make before.
Yes.
It's but I found that already I was allowed to taste a bit of the awards.
Oh, nice.
And it's crazy how this is really a lot into maltiness.
Yeah.
Usually you have like a lot of pear, a lot of apple in the new makes. You have that beautifully at Glenfiddich.
Yeah.
But this one, it does have a bit of that apple and pear. But the most dominant one is that maltiness.
Yeah.
And you get that. You do have all of the nice casks in there, but it's there as an undertone.
I think it's a malty kind of sweet cereal note that we see in the new make, and I think when you come here to the distillery and you're able to look at the day zero, what we absolutely start with, you can see that flavour and its journey up through these whiskies. What we start with, the start of the house character that's then kind of honed in American oak, is very, very present throughout all the Balvenie expressions.
I'm really amazed how you get this maltiness in there, even though you have 65 hours of fermentation. I would have expected much more fruit.
Yeah.
It's just, some distilleries, the intricacies and how low you go with the intercooler and all that kind of stuff. It just all adds together.
I think not to get into the minutiae of creating whiskey now, but I think a lot of what I think creates that sweet cereal note is the Balvenie, the boil ball and the still. So that area of the still in the centre, that bulge, the ball, the Balvenie ball as we call it, that driving that heavy reflux on the spirit, I think really, really helps refine this style that you see in the new make. For me, that and the kind of heavy reflux into the condenser is where we're seeing this be honed and really creative.
Yes, the thing is, you're without the stills, not possible. Not possible to produce it, but you create in the wash also the stepping stone for the stills to find that new make. It all works together.
Sure.
But I love the stills, and although I really do love the story of the Scotsman, like you have a used still, you have a used still. I just buy them and
we'll take them, yeah. And that's something that, I mean, you saw a lot in whiskey history, right?
Yeah.
Like we were never that wealthy when we started off, so it was like, where can we get second-hand equipment that will do the job? And Glenalbyn Distillery and Lagavulin Distillery had spare stills. We'll buy them, and there we go. Started from there.
I mean, back in the day, buying a still back in the day was like a really big thing, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you get such still from Islay to here?
Even transporting it here.
That was like
the cost in that time would have been significant.
Yes,
really significant.
Yeah. But a lot of distilleries that had humble starts, I would say, they have used old stills. I can tell you, could name you a few of them top of my head.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them.
Wait, you have an old still? Yeah, I'll buy it.
I mean, Glenfiddich, our sister distillery, another example of one that got stills from a distillery just up the road, Cardew. So yeah.
I mean, that was a bit more, I would say, lucky. I mean, but I still can't figure out how do you do that with Lagavulin. I mean, it's out there on the island, and the sea is not good for still. You could probably.
It would be interesting to dig into the history of it sometime, because maybe would have been DCL at that point. Maybe they brought the still back to the mainland for working on it.
Oh yeah.
And maybe it was here on mainland Scotland for work.
Yeah.
Maybe
nobody knows.
That was possible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. God, Portwood's just so good.
I mean, I really love that.
Yeah, absolutely love the Portwood.
Yeah, it's one of these whiskies you can have on the side because it's so pleasant, but it's also a whiskey that you can totally focus on. There's so much in it.
Yeah, it's packed full of flavour. I'm also just going to chat briefly about David. So David has obviously been working with the Balvenie now for over 60 years. 60, yes, you heard me right. So crazy, amazing period of time he's been working with the distillery. And obviously he can't continue to go forever. Yeah. So he's now stepped into an honorary ambassador position with Balvenie, and his apprentice Kelsey McKechnie is actually taking over, and she is now our Balvenie malt master. So
so the old bottles still have David on it?
They do.
There's an old one?
Yeah, these are all, so the only...
Do you not have the new ones in here?
We do have it here, so that's the Revelation of Cask and Character is our newest Balvenie, and that does have Kelsey's name on it solely. That was really her kind of...
But she's not a newbie. She's already here for I think
been here for some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's been working alongside David for over 6-7 years now. Oh, yeah. And before that, she was working as a technical graduate for the company on our graduate scheme.
Oh, okay.
And she worked in the process in all our Scottish distilleries, at Tullamore Dew in Ireland. So she has a very intricate knowledge of the whiskey making process. But wanted to get involved in whiskey making, and hence why she put her hand up and wanted to get involved in the whiskey stocks team. And David saw this great potential in Kelsey, and now she has taken over as our Balvenie malt master. So we're very excited to see what Kelsey has to come in the future.
Yeah, it's a big step if you have someone. I think David was like 10 years and then he became malt master. So you kind of had a malt master for a very, very long time.
Yeah. I mean, arguably, I was talking to David about this recently, and David was about 12 years with the company when he started as malt master in 1974, and he started in 1962. But during that time, he was very, very, very young, as you said earlier when we were chatting. And he says now that Kelsey is way, way, way more experienced than David was. He was thrown into the job a little bit and had to learn on his feet. So she's really grounded.
It was a different time.
It was a very, very, very different time.
Yeah.
But no, we're really excited. I mean, her first whiskey is absolutely fantastic, and she's really been working on all the Balvenie expressions for the last 2 years. You know, she will have been responsible for okaying everything we're tasting here, as David's not been able to kind of get into the office during the COVID period. Kelsey's been in charge of all the whiskies.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah.
Good. I'm really excited about the last one because I don't think I've tried it yet.
Well, good for you to try a Balvenie you've never had before at the distillery. So let's have a little taste of some peated Balvenie. So the week of peat. So we have our first whiskey in our stories range here. So let me tell you a little bit about how this actually came about. The gentleman who had the idea for this is a gentleman called Ian Miller. Okay. And he'd worked with a number of other distilling companies, or let's just call them our friends in the industry.
Okay.
And came to William Grant and Sons and was quite curious about running peated malt in Speyside and just seeing how that went. So we started off doing some small peating trials through our floor maltings. Back in about 2002 was when we first started doing it, and saw that it was going well in the first few years, and we decided to start running 1 week of peated malt every single year. So it's only a week's production. So we get about 220,000 litres of peated new make from that 1 week, and that's all the peated stock we had. And we basically saw it as a bit of a win-win, because if we didn't see it developing as we wanted as a Balvenie single malt, we need peated whiskey for our blends anyway, for grants. Okay. And we were actually trading for peated stock with other companies. So we needed to have peated whiskey. So if this hadn't worked for Balvenie, we could have blended with it.
Yeah.
As it progressed in cask, we were like, this is.
I know you probably don't have enough of it.
And now people love it, and we don't have enough. But
yeah, that's the thing with whiskey. Here with your cask finishes, you have like a time of where you can say, okay, I take a normal stuff and do a finish with that and have a look if it works. With that one, it's you should have thought about how much you need 14 years ago, and nobody could tell it.
That's the difficulty with these, you know, at the spirit stage innovations, right? That they take 14 years.
How much whiskey are you gonna sell in 2037?
Well, that's what we have to take a guess. Like, with the stock, we're trying to work 30, 40, 50 years ahead of schedule. Yeah, it's so difficult.
Yeah, sure.
Now this, for me,
I love it that it's a lot different to Islay. It has the intensity of the peat, but it's a lot different. I've had a bit of a chat with Kevin, and he told me that you do have it from the Highlands, definitely, and it doesn't have any iodine seawater background to it. More of a heather, herbs, roots kind of.
To me, it's like we definitely, as you say, we do get this peat from the Highland, well, from Speyside. For me, it's like a sweet peat. It's more of that like heather-driven floral style of peat that you get.
It's a very easy peaty, smoky whiskey.
Yeah,
it's strange.
It's not that like you know, our friends over in Islay, that iodine medicinal note jumps out at you when you nose the glass straight away. This has got a bit more sweet subtlety to it.
Nice.
And it's purely, you can probably tell from the color, pure American oak maturation.
There are only a few distilleries that go so strong and into Highland peat. Usually when you have the Highland peat, you have it in blends and like spiced it in a little bit. Yeah, like it.
Yeah, I think a nice ABV as well, 48.3%. So we wanted to, we tried it at lower ABV, and we thought that the peat was a little bit more subdued. So we wanted to do it non-chill filtered and a tickle higher strength for the peated.
Yeah, I like it. So let's try it. Cheers.
See what you think. Yeah. think down mid palate, the smoke, that sweet smoke, starts to really appear. But to me, it's still very much Balvenie.
It's crazy. But the smoke is there in the nose, but for the intensity that I have in the mouth, it hides a little bit in the nose. The intensity in the mouth is a lot higher. What I love is you do have the maltiness. Yeah, you do have your character definitely in there. You didn't go for any fancy casks, did you?
This it's just straight up American oak matured. It's a bit of a mix of, there's some first fill American oak and refill American oak in there. No other casks in play.
It's really nice that you have a smoky whiskey that is not as harsh. This is what I would say if someone is really, oh no, I don't know, smoke, I don't know. This would be the beginner for smoke maybe.
I'd agree with that. Like, if you don't want to go all the way to Isla smoke, then this is definitely. And there's a lot of other whiskies in Speyside, you know, that are kind of starting to dabble in peat. But this is a fantastic example.
Do you know how many ppms that is? Is that 40?
So we messed around with the ppms from year to year. For this batch, it's probably around 30 ppm in the malt. And then in the glass, we measured this at about 5.
Yeah, I'm sure in the glass, everybody has the measurement in the malt. In the glass, if the 45 in the glass would be like...
People like the big malt number because it seems a bit bonkers,
Get 45 ppm through a still is hard work. Especially if you want to have something round and not...
do you still pick up the kind of citrus note? The citrus note that we pick up in Doublewood, I think the fresh zinginess is still there in this.
But a different citrus note, much lighter, where this is more of a, I would say this is more of a, I would even go for lemon.
Like a lemony lime kind of vibe,
Yeah, like you have in a refill bourbon or first fill bourbon, some versatile bourbons as well. But I like it. It's a bit dancing out of tune. As you know, 40 ppm is considered more of a like phenolic Isla style. So this is a special one out.
It's definitely not our norm. You know, as we've tasted here, this is our kind of our house style really. The peat is just a fun, very different Balvenie. If you want to try something a little bit different from us, then it's definitely one to check out. In particular, if you like peated whiskey, and as we've discussed, the subtlety in the smoke can make it very approachable.
Yeah, I like it.
I'll say as well, this might be blasphemy on your channel, but if you enjoy whiskey cocktails, the citrusy note. This in a whiskey sour, delicious.
This in a whiskey sour, interesting.
Like the citrus with the citrus and the smoke, really, really good.
Sounds interesting, Sounds interesting.
It's my go-to at home.
Because it has a good amount of smoke, but it doesn't have the harshness of the Isla smoke. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I might try that.
Worth a try.
It's for my father. It would be a bit of a blasphemy because he's really a whiskey needs to be neat or with a bit of water in it, and that's it. But I say a whiskey sour, a good cocktail. I'm still on the side with no Coke.
Coke. I mean, if people enjoy it, fair enough, and people want to enjoy their whiskey as they want to enjoy it. I'm kind of the same, that I appreciate great whiskey cocktails, and I think the flavours can be fantastic. But I've kind of always grown up drinking whiskey.
Scotland is just. You do need, end of story.
And maybe a bit of water, as you say.
Yeah, never drink whiskey without water. Water without whiskey. So that is a really good overview about Balvenie. But if I look behind me and if I look above me, then you got tons and tons of bottlings.
Yes, we do.
So there is a much to explore there.
There's a lot to explore. The range is ever evolving. We've got kind of 4 whiskies in the core range, then some really cool kind of small batch stuff in the stories range to look out for. and then some lovely older whiskies as well.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for showing us. And thank you very much for having us at the distillery. It was really a pleasure, and it was lovely to be here, and we've seen really amazing stuff.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much for watching. And if you are interested in these whiskies, then go to Whisky.De or Whisky.com and find these whiskies. Yes, they're a bit low on stock, but maybe you watch this video a few years later and they come back into stock. But usually the 12 and the 14 is pretty good available. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.